Hey guys, it's Eric from Quality Electric in Somersworth, New Hampshire. Today we're doing the annual maintenance on a Generac 16 kW that was installed almost 10 years ago up here in northern New Hampshire. So come on with me and I'll show you how we do it. So like I said, this is a 16 kW Generac. It was installed about 10 years ago up here in the Wakefield, New Hampshire area. We've been doing the maintenance pretty much every year since it was installed, so it's been really well maintained. If you look at the outside, they do tend to get a little bit dirty, especially up here in the woods of New Hampshire. We're going to clean that off a little bit for him, get the cobwebs out. There's a couple additional things we're going to check on this one. He's had battery issues in the past, so we're going to make sure we check that out real good while we're here. One important thing to remember to keep your generator operational for years and years to come is to make sure you're doing that annual maintenance every single year. Some people will say you can get away with doing it every other year, but in New England, these generators get used summer, fall, winter, spring, all year long. There's power failures, so we tend to see units with a lot more hours than other places in the country. So getting them looked at every single year, getting the oil changed, and a couple other things we check for is really important to keep it running for a long time. First thing we always do when we get to a new service, new annual maintenance, is we just check to make sure there's no alarms. We clear any of those if there are, and we go back through and see what they were so we can do any troubleshooting if we need to. We have another video on our YouTube channel you can look at to learn how to reset codes and see what they mean and stuff like that. So go ahead and check that one out if you're interested. So this one right now, you can see on the side, the light's green, there's no alarm, so there's nothing really to check. So the first thing we need to do is just to start it up and get that oil warmed up so it's easier to get it all out. The next thing we're going to do is just drain the oil out. The reason that we warm it up first is so that it's easier to get all the oil out. If you try and change the oil while it's cold, sometimes it's really difficult to actually get all of the oil to come out. So it's nice to get it nice and warm so that it all flows out a little bit smoother. And then while that's draining, usually we just go through and we make sure that it's all nice and clean, get rid of the cobwebs, make sure no animals have found their way inside. The Generacs do a pretty good job of making sure everything's all sealed up so that the mice can't get in there, but every now and then they still find a way through. So it's important to make sure that you give it a good look over while we're here doing the service. Besides changing the oil, there's a couple other things we change while we're here. We do the spark plugs, we change the air filter. Like I said, we check the battery, but both visual and voltage check of the battery. We check the output voltage going to your home, and we try and test it in a transfer situation to make sure that it's working. We're not going to show all that today. Some of the stuff is kind of in depth. There's certain aspects of this that should be really left to the professionals, especially changing spark plugs, something that sounds so simple. You know, you cross-thread one of those a little bit and you're in a real bad spot. So some things are just best left to the professionals. Now we've got all the old oil out of there. Now we're going to fill it back up. They take anywhere from 1 to 2 quarts depending on how much of the old oil you actually got out. This part right here sometimes takes longer than draining all the oil out of it because the new oil is going to be so clear it's difficult to see on the dipstick, but it's important not to overfill it. In fact, it's probably more important to make sure that you don't overfill it than it is to underfill it. Most generators and lawn equipment, your car, a lot of things have safeties to stop them from having, you know, not enough oil and getting too hot, but nothing really has any protection for too much oil, which causes just as much damage as not enough. So this part, even though it seems simple, is actually really crucial. We've got a safe amount of oil in there. What we're going to do now is just start it up for a couple seconds, let it run, circulate that oil, make sure there's no issues, everything sounds good. We'll turn it off, let it cool down for a minute, check the oil again, and top it off if we need to. right, we're all done with the service. We're gonna go ahead and put the sticker on that tells when we serviced it last, so whoever comes here next knows who did it and when they did it. I'm just gonna get this cleaned up, properly dispose of the oil, and we'll be out of here. All right, thanks for coming along with me on this annual maintenance. All we got left to do is just clean the outside of the unit a little bit more, and then we're gonna test the unit with the customer and make sure everything's working how they expect it, and we'll be on our way. One of the most important things to remember to always have with you when you're servicing a generator, it often gets overlooked by most service technicians, but it's Dunkin' Donuts cold brew iced coffee with some whole milk and a little bit of sugar. It's what you really need to get through the day. Maybe Dunkin's can sponsor me. Dun, 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 dun. Yeah, electrician man.